Hello. Hi. Welcome back to another episode. And I'm very happy to say that there are more and more people joining the Facebook group. And it's maybe because, the season is approaching and people are trying to gather more information on how to prepare. And so I'm very happy that you found this group. And I want to give you more and more information so you don't have to spend a lot of money on this advice preparation from other groups. So let's start with today's topic is how do you handle stress? It's probably one of those questions that will come, and if it doesn't, you should give or try to take an opportunity during this conversation to bring up this from you. And for you to bring it up or for you to answer this question, I want you to think, what does the program directors or what does a program want to know about you during this interview? And it's always the same. It's basically we want to make sure that you're a person that we can work with, that we are not going to have to put you on termination or probation, and then lose a resident. So for that, in that sense, thinking about how do you handle stress, I want you to always think, what does they want from you? And we want to know that you're not going to fail us in two of the most common areas of deficiencies on students, which are professionalism and knowledge. Well, patient care is also a very common reason why residents get into termination. So I would say those three areas should be the base of your answers. So let's talk about this case, okay? How do you handle stress? So we're thinking first that you're gonna keep in mind those areas of why a person gets into termination. But now also think about those situations in life that you experience during medical school, because you experience them for sure. You always experience these situations, and how do you handle them? And think how do you handle them, and now also think what will be the best way to handle them. So do some reading and find out what is the best way to professionally handle a stressful situation. And I would like you to practice with the most common things that we will see in residency. For example, when I was a resident, one of my co-residents, he will always come to work late, whereas all of us we will be starting to work at 5 a.m. He will be coming up at 7 and barely making it to rounds at 9, barely finishing his notes, barely knowing what was going on with the patients, and it affected me as a senior resident because sometimes I had to see his patients and do his notes, and it wasn't that he was lazy, but there was something going on. So what I had to do is I had to go and talk to him, and it's the first time I had to deal with a stressful situation, because he was about my age. He's in the same boat as me. I don't want to be like bossy and start digging around his life to find out, but I had to, because as a senior you have to put yourself in that position. So I had to handle stress or a stressful situation by calming myself first and not being judgmental, and then talking to him and saying first, hey, the reason why I want to talk to you is because there are things, or there are certain behaviors that are affecting the team, and I want to know if there is something going on that we can help you, or there is a problem that that you need to figure out first before we continue working. And ended up that he had some family issues and that he needed some extra time at home in the mornings because he couldn't find a babysitter to leave the babies with. And then after talking, they okay, we understand now. So we asked our preceptor to move rounds from 9 a.m. to 9:30, so he will have that extra time. So it worked out. It worked out. He was happy. He was finishing his notes. He knew his patients, but it came from this conversation. Came out of this conversation. Okay. Next one, there was I remember there was another resident that she was very difficult to conversate with, a very strong personality and very fast thinking, very proud. And the junior residents weren't thrilled or happy to seek help from her because her approach, she was non-approachable. She was very difficult and they were just scared to try to get advice from her. So again, we had to talk to her and say, hey, what's going on? Why does people think that you are having you're not approachable? And ended up that it was her training, her previous training on a previous residency, a surgical residency, and the culture that she came from made her seem unapproachable. But in reality, it was a different story. It was probably her posture, her way of talking, but it wasn't really. After we talked, I understood why would she be in that situation, but it was just more of a cultural. It was more of a appearance rather than her being, mad all the time or not wanting to help others. And the next one is a very non-professional resident that we had to work with for a while, and he did have to be terminated because his conduct didn't change even after we talked, and it ended up that he usually will leave his rotation early without saying anyone to the coming resident. He will miss days at his rotations, thinking that no one is going to catch up on that. And after we talk and say, hey, we identified that there's some attendings that are complaining about you leaving the rotation early or not coming to work. And even after that, he wouldn't change. So for me, it was stressful to handle this situation as a senior resident because I hate doing that talk, but sometimes you have to do it. Anyways, so I just gave you some examples of what some stressful situations could be. There could be other stressful situations like dealing with family members, dealing with the loss of a family of a close relative to you, not catching up with your peers. But I want you to think of, if you're going to answer this question, just prepare in your mind the most common scenarios that we want to make sure that you're able to deal with is working with others. And I just gave you a couple of examples of how it is working with others and what problems can happen during residency. So now think, working with others and professionalism, because the problem that you have to handle stress is professionalism while working with others. So one of the situations that my answer for this question will be, after I prepare this answer in my mind and practice it a couple of times and convince myself that I did the right thing, will be during medical school, I had to deal with one of my coworkers that wasn't um, performing at the level that we were at, causing our team to be delayed, causing our team to be not able to present cases on time. I had to. I first thought what would be the best approach to find out what was going on, and I had to sit with this colleague. We had a lengthy conversation on what was going on in his life. If there was something that we could change for him, if there was something that we could move around to have to allow time for his duties or his responsibilities. And I learned that there there may be different things going on people's lives, and we want to collaborate, we want to cooperate together, and the best way to do that is by starting an open conversation. And after doing that, we fixed our problem. We found a common ground, and we were able to improve as a team. Another answer for this question using this framework I gave you of what are the common reasons for residents to be terminated, either knowledge or professionalism, right? Now let's think about knowledge. So let's say they ask you, how do you handle stress? Tell me about a time that you had to handle stress. So there are many residents that don't have time management skills. And that is very important. Why? Because there's so many things that are going to be asked of you during residency, like write this paper, come to morning rounds, come to lecture uh, at lunch, talk to the family, come to an ethics meeting, and you will barely have time. On top of that, you have to study at the end of the day. So you have a hard time trying to manage your time. And many residents, what they do is they don't read, they don't complete their tasks, and they get in trouble. And you don't want to be that. You want to be the one that finds time for everything, but it's hard. But if you want to impress or if you want to convince them to take you, you have to say ahead of time, you have to be proactive by saying, I'm the guy that doesn't leave anything undone at the end of the day. I go home after finishing everything. So, in that sense, there are some residents that don't have time to do their scholar activities like writing a paper or preparing their presentation in time or meeting with their mentors, advisors, while having to do their clinic work, their inpatient work. They can't. So, time management skills. If you say, maybe let's say your answer is yes, when I was in medical school, I I found myself in a stressful situation of having to do my research papers, and at the same time having to study for my exams. I I love research, but at that point in time, I realized that priority was on studying for this test and performing well on my rotations. So I had to put a little break, or I had to take a little hiatus on my research projects to pass my test, to complete my assignments, and also had to create a study program. Uh, assign little breaks for for some reading, and little times for meeting with patients or family members, calling and checking my inbox in the clinic. And so I think the way this time um, was difficult for me taught me that finding time and putting some topics into priority, giving priority to some things, it will work better for me at the end of the day. There might be a better way to explain that. You just have to look into the words for that. But I'm giving you the context and why is that important for us to see on a coming resident. So look into that. I would say to prepare an answer based on these two scenarios, you dealing with time management skills, and the other one dealing with a lazy coworker. I'm pretty sure you had to deal with this in the past. So yes, go back in the past, look at the time that you had to do that, put it on this perspective, and remember to talk about something that how did this happen, what did you learn about it, and how do you plan to use it in the future. Alright guys, I'll come with more videos soon.